how would you like to be able to eat more food, lose weight, and improve your health? That's what this video is about. So thank you so much for joining us and watching. I have with me today Michele Comeau. Is that how we pronounce your name, Michele?
Close enough. It's Comeau, but Rob, you
Comeau.
did good. That was a good shot at it.
Okay.
Comeau.
Okay, wonderful. Michele, it's great to have you here. You're a certified fitness nutrition specialist and fitness instructor, right? And
Absolutely.
you've been practicing Eat to Live now for 10 years, roughly, right?
It's been over 10 years. It's been wonderful.
Wow. And, you know, for people that are just learning about Eat to Live, this amazing lifestyle, what are the basic underlying principles of Eat to Live? And maybe just give them a feel, Michele, of what this lifestyle incorporates and how it somewhat works.
Well, I'm going to take one step back, if I may, Rob.
Absolutely.
I got into this because of health problems that I was having. My bones were so fragile that they were spontaneously fracturing. And that's when and then I had some heart conditions. I ended up in the emergency room with chest pains. And that's when I knew that I had to make some changes. And as I started looking around at different ways to eat and what gets you the best results, I stumbled across Dr. Fuhrman's protocol with Eat to Live. And it has been absolutely magical for me, for both taking off weight that I needed to take off, but also strengthening my body. And it is so easy when you figure out how to do it. Basically, you're eating the best food on the face of the planet. It's whole food, plant-based. And Dr. Fuhrman, of course, talks about the G-bombs. You want to make sure that you're getting your greens, your beans, onions, mushrooms, always cooked. B is berries, and S is for seeds and nuts every day. And how easy is that? The trick that I find, though, in doing this is creating a community around you of like-minded people. Because what happens when you start eating this way and you start feeling good, and all of a sudden you've got to explain to everybody what you're doing and why you're doing it and kind of defending, you're like, and I see these people. That they found something that works for them and they're like born again Christians. They're trying to convince everybody to do it. So rather than trying to convince all of your friends to do it, start nurturing people that are already on the path and sharing inspiration and ideas and what works for you. That's been super valuable for me. Here, we've got the Eat to Live Las Vegas group on Facebook. And it's just been so nice to get together with them for potlucks and sharing ideas and going out hiking together and getting together. And that way you're not explaining what you're doing. And you can share successes without feeling bad for people, because you know you're all on the same path, you're all having great successes, and you're feeling good about that.
Right, that energy rubs off on other people, and when you're like-minded and you're surrounding yourself with those types of people, like you were mentioning, that really helps you to stay motivated and focused on this lifestyle. And I found for myself that is one of the biggest keys to being successful.
And it's been so much fun having you in the group, Rob, because you joined not long ago and you've been sharing recipes and ideas and inspiring thoughts and having like-minded people together. I just came back from New Zealand before we did the lockdown for the virus. And it took me 2 days of travel to get back into the US from overseas. And I had to go through a 2-week quarantine when I did get back. So I was in trouble. I'm sitting here in my house. I'm not allowed to go outside. And having the community around me, having one friend in particular that lives close by that's following the Nutritarian, the Eat to Live lifestyle, when she would go shopping, she'd pick things up for me. She'd drop them by the front. I was all set. It was so easy to go through quarantine, and you're able to share. I've got another friend here in town that just delivered twins, and she's been following Eat to Live for years, very successfully. And rather than bring her flowers, what do I deliver a G-bomb salad, an eat to live salad. She's overjoyed. I brought her extra dressing for it. And that's the support that we want to cultivate. I find that people that stay on the path are certainly doing that.
At first, I'll share with our viewers, when I started this journey about 7 years ago, you will get some flack from your family members, your friends. They will look at you and they will ask a lot of questions because we have this social stigma all around us that is telling us not to eat this way. So it's all about processed food and animal products everywhere you look. And so, I remember when I would show up at work, I started this journey making green smoothies. And I would bring my green smoothies to work, set them on the table with my NutriBullet that I had blended. And, people would like, what is that? What are you drinking? And then, but after a while, once they get to know you, and that just like with your family members, I'm sure, Michele, they stop asking questions because they know this is what you do. And this is who you are. And so I just thought I'd add that as well.
I totally agree. And the thing is, we don't have to say much about what we're doing or try to convince anybody. They see that our health is improving and they start asking questions on how we did it. I just saw a wonderful interview with Brenda Davis. She's the plant-based nutritionist. And she said a couple of things that really struck me. Number one, we've got to be a good example of what health looks like. If we expect people to follow this path, we've got to be in tune to taking care of ourselves and walking the talk. And the other thing she said was lead by example. Rather than trying to force people into it or promoting it, just simply you make the food available. And that's what you see people do with their families. They'll have the side dishes available, and pretty soon the family's finding that the food tastes wonderful and delicious, and they're coming on board without being coerced to do it.
Right. So the plant-based diet in general revolves around whole foods. For those of you who may be just getting into this lifestyle and starting Eat to Live, so whole grains, beans, nuts and seeds, and I like to think of Eat to Live as taking it to the next level, because then it focuses on these G-bombs, which you've mentioned, Michele: greens, beans, onions, mushrooms, berries, seeds, and nuts, that have been shown to be the most enhancing for health and to assist with weight loss as well. But I just want to give people an idea of that's what, what you eat primarily focuses and revolves around. How soon can people notice a benefit? And it will vary from person to person, but how soon might they notice a benefit when they adopt the Eat to Live lifestyle, Michele?
Well, as you say, Rob, it depends on the person and also how all in they get. Some people like to sort of ease into it and slowly make the change, and other people are on board straight away, depending on what's going on with them.
Right, and I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Michele. I just wanted to mention too, for the foods, obviously fruits and vegetables. I left those out. But I'm so sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
And they're like the bases, Rob.
Those are the bases. So I wanted to cover the ones that normally don't get mentioned. That's what my focus was. So that's why I left them out. Okay.
So how quickly do they feel it? I would say almost immediately. And what I've learned from Dr. Fuhrman, two things. Number one is when you start down this path, make sure that if you're on any medications that you're working hand in hand with your doctor, because your medications are going to change, and you want to make sure that you're in contact with your doctor as you're doing it. And the other thing, and I really notice this when I go to the Eat to Live events where Dr. Fuhrman is there, some people go through a withdrawal. Honestly, they feel like they have the flu to start with, and all kinds of crazy things. My hiking coach got on this program. Now he's in his mid-70s, and he holds all the records in Red Rock Canyon here outside of Las Vegas. And when he started on the program, of course, he's Mr. I'm going to do it all the way. So he was all in. But he talked about how his body got confused. He says, my body's getting confused, and he's leading hikes and doing all this. So he can't really take time to run to the bathroom every 2 minutes. And so he had to kind of back up and ease into it slower. So it depends. It depends. And when you go through that, if you do feel not so good at the beginning, know that you're on the right path, because your body's going to readjust. We have learned from Dr. Fuhrman how addictive foods are, and as we're getting off the sugar, the fat, or the oils and the sodium, that the body goes, wait a minute, what's going on? The other part of it,
you just have to push through that. Push through it for that first week or a few days or a week or two.
There you go.
And once you get past that, then it becomes so easy, because part of it are the food addictions and the withdrawals. So it's just like any other substance. You get addicted to it. Once your body gets rid of those, and you get rid of the withdrawal, then it becomes so much easier. I just wanted to add that.
And this is where having a group around you, letting you know. Now, years ago, I took a group we kind of did a book club on the end of diabetes. And what we did is we got together for about 7 weeks, once a week. And we were reading the book and talking about the book. And we'd have a potluck. Now, at the beginning of the group getting together, it was a small group. I think we were only about 10 in number. We were sharing information about us at that first meeting. And we had this one good-looking tall man that was part of our group. And he didn't say a word. You know, he had the straight face, didn't say a word at the beginning. And when it was his turn to share why he was in the group, he stood up and he says, I'm in this group because my daughter told me I had to be. And then he looks around, and I'm looking for a woman to cook for me. And you got to picture this, Rob. Primarily women in this group. Everybody had their eyes down. No one looked up at all. And a long pause, and I looked at him and I said, Rodney, there's nothing sexier than a man in the kitchen. And he just sat down, quiet. What I learned later about Rodney, the reason he was in Las Vegas and his daughter insisted he came back to town, and he has told me that it's okay to share this story because the turnaround on him was just so dramatic. The reason is he had a heart attack. And when he had his heart attack, he was in the hospital, and the care wasn't going well. They found out that he was also diabetic. And that happens to so many people. They start having heart conditions, and then they find out that they've been diabetic, which can create more of a problem for the heart. So his daughter shuffled him. He was living in New Orleans. He's living in New Orleans. She forces him to come here, and she puts on a good program, and she forces him to join our group on ending diabetes. So Rodney begrudgingly came to the meetings. And for the first week, for the first 2 weeks, I brought all the food for the potluck, but I explained to them that they're going to be making their own food. So they were all responsible for choosing a recipe and bringing it in. And every week they'd bring in. So the first week, Rodney comes, and we did this at Vegas Roots Community Garden here in Las Vegas. It's our first urban garden, really a neat place. So there's plenty of greens in the garden. I mean, if you're on a budget, the garden's full of greens. So Rodney comes in, and he does a dish with beans and lentils, but he does it using the New Orleans spices. And he managed to make this flavor without using any salt or oils or sweeteners, right?
Sure.
So he brings this little bowl, and we all go down and we all take a tablespoon of Rodney's, dish, and all the women in the group are smiling. They're going, oh, that's very good. Rodney, could you bring this again next week? So every week the bowl would get bigger, and it got better. He kept perfecting, the dish. So um, what part of what we're doing is we're going through the book, and we're also watching Dr. Fuhrman videos, and there's a ton of them on YouTube that you can get so
so this is the perfect time right now to be starting this lifestyle. I just want to mention, because we have access to YouTube videos, Eat to Live, Dr. Joel Fuhrman's work, and pick up the book, Eat to Live, the book, Dr. Joel Fuhrman. Because that will really be your best tool in getting
the
started.
Eat to Live is wonderful, especially if you want to lose the weight. But if you have heart conditions, he has the end of heart disease and the end of diabetes. If you have specific, and I love those books because he goes into specifics of that. Anyway, so Rodney, and all I would do is I wouldn't get up there and lecture them. I just put on a Dr. Fuhrman video and we'd watch it. And I don't know how the conversation came out, but Rodney, who's been very quiet, he's making his dishes, he's kind of hanging in there. They started talking about meat and animal products, and as you know, Dr. Fuhrman says if you need it, you can use animal products in a small quantity, and explains exactly how. Well, Rodney puts his head up and he goes, "Why would I want to eat any of that? That stuff will kill you." And everybody's there with their jaws dropped. So we break for Thanksgiving. Rodney goes back to New Orleans to visit some friends of his, and some of his old friends are having heart conditions. And the book, The End of Heart Disease, was just out. So he buys his friends copies of The End of Heart Disease, and he's lecturing to his friends in New Orleans about following Eat to Live program. And he just and I don't know if that would have happened if we weren't in a group. So yeah, it was magical. And one word about Rodney, because he loves to go out, good tall. If you go to the Eat to Live Las Vegas site, we have one group picture when Dr. Fuhrman came to town years ago, and we did a fundraiser for his foundation. They're doing the Women's Nutritarian Study, and we did a luncheon, and we all, did our signature dishes from the Eat to Live recipes. So, and Rodney, of course, did his lentils and greens. But you'll see a picture of Rodney. He's the tall, good-looking one, and Rodney is doing great. He's in perfect health. He travels a lot, and he's in his 70s. And when you're tall, good-looking, and muscular, and you're in incredibly good condition, you'll find women are running after you. And he's certainly enjoying his life to the fullest.
That's wonderful. What health benefits might people expect when they start doing Eat to Live? I know you and I both have experienced weight loss, and so we both have things, and thousands of people right now as we speak are doing this. But what are some of the health benefits people may notice?
Well, as you mentioned, Rob, it's going to be different for everybody, depending on what things you've got going on. For me, what I noticed straight away, I had sciatic for over 10 years. It was so bad that it would wake me up at night when I was in bed, and it was impossible to sit in an airplane or in a car for any length of time without getting up and walking. And that disappeared. That absolutely disappeared. And what's the funny thing about that is when I fall off the wagon, once in a while, we all do, depending on what's going on, that doggone sciatic comes back. Things like allergies for me disappeared. I had no more problems with the heart. That all cleared up. I also found that my endurance got better. And when it came for the weight coming off, it just pretty much melted off without thinking about it. Because what happens, you can't watch the scale, because what can be happening is you're moving around more, and some of that fat could be changing to muscle. So what you'll find is clothes are going to be fitting better, you're going to be looking better, but the scale may not change that much. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind.
I always think there's changes going on you internally that you might not notice right off the bat.
Yeah.
But just know that inside your body is changing. It's healing, it's detoxifying, and all of these incredible changes are happening. and the weight loss will just come.
Exactly. Exactly. But talking about the weight loss, keep in mind that Dr. Fuhrman also talks about exercising. And one of the things that he talks about that I found fascinating is, as you know, he had a medical practice for years, and patients that were with him for years. And one thing that he noticed is when they got the inside working well, they were living a lot longer. So they were experiencing problems like, osteoporosis and those kinds of things. So he got more and more interested in talking to his patients about making sure that they're exercising and staying in good shape. And that's valuable. Can I show you my favorite one?
For sure.
Okay. All right. This is my favorite one that I love to show folks. Dr. Fuhrman, and if anybody's got osteoporosis, what I've learned from Dr. Fuhrman is it doesn't have to do with how thick your bones are. It has to do with how healthy they are. And there are medications that'll make your bones look thicker, but it's like creating styrofoam in the bones. They're not healthy bones. So they may be thicker, but they can break very easily. And I taught for years over at Humana Healthcare here in Las Vegas, bone strengthening. And one of the things that Dr. Fuhrman talks about is if you're on the medication, it can cause crazy things within the body. Like instead of breaking a hip, you break the femur, which is that upper leg. And I had several the participants in my classes that were rehabbing from that femur break, and yes, they had been on the medication for years. Another thing is the dead bone syndrome that happens in the jaw, and we've had cases of a friend of mine is a retired dentist, and she saw the first case of that in Las Vegas, where the bone actually just dies, and which makes dental work very. But the thing that really woke me up, though, from what I learned from Dr. Fuhrman, it can cause the heart arrhythmias. The medication can cause the heart arrhythmias, and it takes a full 5 years for the medication to get out of you. And a lot of doctors don't realize that. I'm a senior, and when I started going as a senior, they wanted to get me on the medication straight away. And so I put my glasses on, and this huge sheet of, what the medication can do that came with it. They talk about heart arrhythmias. And when I brought that up to the doctor didn't know. Anyway, so, but let's get back to the exercise that Dr. Fuhrman does when he has a patient come into the office, because again, the bone density scan really doesn't tell him much. And it's simply this, and I'm gonna tip this down and come back here. Okay, see if I can tip that down just a little bit more. All you need to do is sit down. Now, before we do this, I'm gonna have you standing and sitting in a minute, but we're just gonna oil up the back. So what you wanna do is you just wanna, just oil up the back, because sometimes it gets stuck. You see what I'm doing back here? As we sit and we're working, we're not using that part of the back. Okay, this is what Dr. Fuhrman has his patients do in the office. And he's checking their balance and also how strong their muscles are. And those are indications on whether they're going to get fallers. Simply this, one foot in front of the other, you stand up, and then you sit down. And then you stand up, and you sit down. What do you think, Rob? Can you do it?
I think I might be able to handle that.
Do you think so? One foot in front of the other. And it helps if you spot something in front of you. I love that, because this is what, as I work with executives in turning around their health, this is an easy thing that they can do in the office several times a day and get themselves stronger. So yes, along with eating well, making sure that we're active and we're getting out there and having a lot of fun.
Yeah, this lifestyle improves your health and your exercise goals, because then you have the energy, you have, what you need in order to be able to accomplish them. So it all works together. These foods give you that energy. They help you feel alive. They help you feel more connected to people, to nature, more in balance with how we should be feeling. But our bodies are so out of whack consuming the standard American diet that we walk around feeling tired, lethargic, and we're not healthy, most of us. So That's what Eat to Live does. And so how does this play along, Michele, with exercise fitness goals? Because I know as a fitness instructor, what are your thoughts on that? How this plays the role?
I'm glad you brought that up. What I found, and at Humana Healthcare, when I was teaching bone strengthening, the majority of the class were seniors. And we would have a good time. We'd be jumping around, we'd be dancing, and doing exercises specifically to get the bones stronger. And I would always include information from Eat to Live about how to actually strengthen their body internally. And you know what was interesting, Rob? Most of them didn't want to make the change. And I could see, because you can tell when you're in front of a group, whether or not they want to hear that. I could see that they weren't really interested in that. But there was one woman that was in the group, and she was heavy set, she was diabetic, and this is when I was getting ready to do the End of Diabetes book club at Vegas Roots Community Garden. And she perked right up. She says, I've got to take this weight out. I've got to take care of my diabetes. And she was driven, but she wanted to start now. And I said, no problem. Get the book, get going. And she did. She picked up the book, and I noticed her bringing her food with her, bringing those lovely large salads that Dr. Fuhrman talks about. And we'll talk in a minute about salads and getting inspiration for salads. But she started eating that way because at this facility, they had a lot of they call healthy junk food. You know, bars of this and popcorn and all this stuff available, which the seniors love, but we know is not terribly good. So she slims down, and pretty soon she's wearing, and her diabetes got better. She's wearing these gorgeous clothes, and just made a major difference. And you know what was funny about this, Rob, and this happens time and time again. I see it with my clients all the time. As soon as, and I don't know if you found this, because you've taken off. How much weight did you take off?
Over 60 pounds.
Yeah, you took off over 60 pounds. All of a sudden, people perk up, and this has happened with so many friends of mine and so many clients. When they see you getting slender, they want you to market their product. Have you noticed that? They could be selling nutritional supplements. They could be selling this, that, or the other, but they want you to become a distributor and attribute what you've done to their product. And she kept, bringing all these things. And I kept saying to her, quite frankly, these nutritional supplements that she would get paid to promote. And I kept saying to her, I have no idea. I'm really not smart enough to know what's in this, or if what's on the label is actually in it. We know that there's many times a discrepancy between what's on the label and what's inside the product and what they're putting in these things. So she ended up getting a deal with a cosmetic company. Well, what happened was, let me back up a little bit. People started noticing she's losing the weight. So they would invite her over to talk about how they did it. So she'd bring Dr. Fuhrman's Eat to Live book with her, and she'd go and she'd meet with these groups and explain and go through the book, and you just follow this and you can do it. And they started giving her money for coming to these meetings. And pretty soon she's getting invited to Beverly Hills to do that, and to Martha's Vineyard to do that. So she got a lovely business just going around, and she's this wonderful extroverted woman doing that. And then she did get a deal with a cosmetic company to promote this particular cosmetic. And I was pleased about that because she wasn't promoting a supplement. Yeah. Let's talk food. Can we talk food?
Perfect. Absolutely.
Okay. We know from Dr. Fuhrman that really the base of what we're doing with this way of eating, with the G-bombs and all of that, is you want to have a big salad every day. And I'm not talking this size salad. I'm talking big. I love going to
bigger than the size of your head.
At least, at least.
That's right.
and in this, what I love about this, because you go then to your farmer's market or what you can grow in the backyard, and you look for whatever's in season that you can start adding to your salad. And it's so much fun to hang out with the Eat to Live folks, because when we have potlucks, that's sort of the basis of what we're doing, and then we put a lot of taste around it. So you get creative. I'm not really big on spending a lot of time in the kitchen. But what I've learned from Dr. Fuhrman is if you're serious enough about this, you're gonna learn how to do some things in the kitchen. And one thing that I admired about him early on, because I've studied with so many of the high-profile doctors promoting a whole food plant-based diet, many of them will point to their wives. Well, she's going to show you how to do this, or have a look, and or it just magically appears for them, and their wives get involved with writing the cookbooks and all of that, and doing the support. But Dr. Fuhrman, he would get into the kitchen. He had videos of him actually preparing things.
Yeah, he has them out right now. Yeah, we can still view them on YouTube.
Yeah, they're all available. But he talks about what he does in the kitchen. And I know when he came to town, he would come every year to speak for health, healing, and happiness here in Las Vegas. We did a fundraiser at my place for him, and all we did is we got him in the kitchen preparing some things, and he just loves being in the kitchen and preparing things. So you figure this guy's pretty busy, and he's got a full schedule. And if he thinks it's important enough, that it's well worth our time to get in there and to do that. Yeah. So learning how to do some basic things, stocking your fridge with what I call fast food. So you open your fridge door, you've got mason jars all full of all the goodies that you've pre-prepared. And Dr. Fuhrman does a great job on talking about you prep maybe 2 days a week, and then you've got a fridge full of your soups and your salads and your salad dressings that you're going to be blending up with whole food, those wonderful nuts, the wonderful seeds.
Without oil, without salt, without sugar, those things. And they taste incredible. And
they're so good.
He has the Eat to Live cookbook for those of you that might want to pick that up.
Oh, okay. Hold on 1 second. Let's talk cookbooks.
All right.
Hold on, Rob. My favorite.
Yes, quick and easy. And
oh my goodness. Listen, have you gotten it yet?
I was just going to say, people don't have time. We're so busy nowadays. We don't want to spend hours in the kitchen all the time.
It's quick and easy. And what I love about this book, the first couple of pages is really an overview of the program. So he kind of lays it out there. The photographs are beautiful. Chocolate almond truffles. Nice. Oh, I love, and what I really love about this book is, for those, now the thing is, when you start eating this way, you don't have to weigh things, you don't have to measure things, it's pretty much complete. But what he does, and his team does, is on the bottom of the pages, they actually give how many calories per portion, how much total fat, how much of it is saturated, how much sodium is in it, how much fiber is in it, beta carotene, vitamin C. I mean, they just give everything. It's just so well put together. But this is my fave. He's got a lot of ones. And of course, we all know that in his books like Eat to Live, there's always recipes in the back. So yeah. And the last group that I worked with this last year, it was so cute because they were all professionals and none of them ever cooked. And one was a retired dentist, one was a banker. And these people don't have, and what we would do is every week we would get in the kitchen and somebody would be responsible for the shopping and orchestrating what we were all going to do, and we were all going to help. So we would, in that afternoon, put a dish together, and the changes in the family. Now they're cooking for their grandchildren. Now they're teaching their grandchildren and their children these wonderful dishes. It's so good. It's so have fun.
It's fun and exciting, yeah.
One comment that Dr. Fuhrman made this last year or two, I love going to his events, you know, his, the events where you can go and hang out with him for a week. There's a summer getaway, and that's always fun. But he kind of came to the realization that now when they have guests over, they get them all into the kitchen to help prepare whatever it is. And a lot to be said for that. Every year in Las Vegas, we do a Thanksgiving sack lunches for deserving families. We used to do it for the homeless, but they made it illegal here to give homeless any food. Don't ask me why, but every year we were doing sack lunches for the homeless, and we were getting a group that helped the homeless to distribute them. But now we're doing deserving families through Vegas Roots Community Garden, and we all come to my kitchen. We all put on our, you know, food handling gloves, and we get busy, and we make all these recipes from scratch. Chop salad, and this wonderful stuffing that tastes just like turkey, because you can season it up to make it, you know, with mushrooms and nuts, so we all get together. And the fun thing is, all the people that come and help learn the recipes, and then they go and they teach it to their families and serve it for their own Thanksgiving lunch. So that, you know, the more we can learn it and share it, the better it is.
That's right. The better off we'll be, the better off our environment will be, and the people around us that we're sharing this information with. And that's why I'm doing these videos. That's why we share this information, like yourself, Michele, is to help people to improve the quality of their life. And what would you say that, I mean, I know for myself, I've learned to like so many different fruits and vegetables, some of which I didn't even know existed out there. And that's what's so cool about Eat to Live is, and the plant-based lifestyle in general though, is you find foods and you try them. And like, I never liked tomatoes. I never even liked them, you know, I mean, and now I love them, you know. So you find all these foods, and there's literally thousands of fruits and vegetables out there, and we only eat just a very small percentage of them. And it becomes fun, you love the food. And so this whole idea, this whole misconception of, if you're doing this type of eating plan, you don't enjoy it, it's just the opposite. And Dr. Fuhrman did studies with people that have went and done the Eat to Live program. And he found that, I believe it was 80 or 90% of them over time, somewhere around there, actually enjoyed this lifestyle, eating this way, the same or better than eating the standard American diet. So it is truly, it's so fun, it's exciting, and I just wanted to throw that in there.
It is, and now when you walk into that produce section to go shopping, you're kind of looking around. What's on sale? What's in season? And I've gotten into the habit of trying to try something different every week. So going in and looking for things like jicama that I made, or even radishes. I never used to like radishes. Actually, Dr. Fuhrman was telling us that he never liked onions, red onions, you know, raw red onions. And when he looked at the research and looked at how helpful they are, he now piles them on his salad. Yep, and he has acquired a taste for it. And you acquire taste. Honestly, when you can't get to a good salad or good raw fresh veggies, you're kind of craving them. So it's exciting. Same with the beans. I was never much for beans, and it takes the body a little while to adapt to be eating those legumes, and then you know you really are enjoying them, and the body is working so much better. A funny note about that. I was on the Atkins diet for over 10 years, and that's high animal protein. And it's a very dangerous diet to be on. And I was married to a physician who believed that that was the best way to eat. And now when I look back at that, I can see that, because I didn't have osteoporosis in my family, eating that way, and a few other things that I did in my early days, added to my osteoporosis. But one thing that happens when you're on that, or the keto diet, or that, all of a sudden your system, your digestive system, kind of packs up. You're just not things are not going through you as quickly as they should. And I was living on milk of magnesia. I could not travel unless I had bottles of milk of magnesia. And I finally went to a internist to say, can any of this come back? And he, you know, traditional guy, this was years ago. He said, oh, I'm afraid not. He says, but I'll tell you what, when I went on the Eat to Live program, all of a sudden everything, and this is what you get back to saying, everything inside starts working better. No problems anymore. No problems anymore. So yeah, everything's working better and you acquire a taste. They say it takes 21 days to acquire a new taste. Also, what I found when you start eating a lot of very nutritious food, like what Dr. Fuhrman talks about, is you no longer are hungry.
Right.
That takes a while. That does not happen in 1 week. For those that are familiar with his End of Heart Disease book, he talks about the radical program in there to where you start doing a little bit of the intermittent fasting. And boy, that was magic for me. I was working with my hiking coach. He was determined to get me up to the top of Mount Charleston, 12,000 feet, as I'm working my way back to health. And we started hiking and doing these long hikes in order to do it. And I started doing the intermittent fasting. And he's traditional, you know, kind of athlete where you have to eat every few hours. And I said, well, we're going to, you know, I talked about the anabolic and the catabolic state and how Fuhrman says that, you know, this works a lot better. And I started following that. And by George, we made it to the top of Mount Charleston. I hiked for 10.5 hours nonstop to get to the top and the bottom. And I owe that to the protocol that he has in the End of Heart Disease.
That's wonderful. 10 hours. That's great.
10.5 hours, Rob. 10.5 hours.
Got to get the half in there. I mean,
I know it took me 2 years of training to do it, but I did it.
Oh, it's good enough to accomplish 10 hours, but 10 and a half.
10, and this was for a woman. This was for a woman that would take her friends that were coming to town and she would drive them around the loop at Red Rock Canyon and point to things because she couldn't get out of the car without, you know, and do any of the hikes without injuring herself because my bones were spontaneously fracturing to do a 10. And I know it. And this is where it isn't just the working out. And it isn't just the food, it's when you put everything together.
Yes, the magic.
It's the magic of working out and the food together. It's magic. It's magic.
Michele, I appreciate all your time. This has been fun. And so you've shared some great information. For you, those of you who are watching this video, thank you so much for watching it to the end. My passion is helping you improve your health and your life through plant-based nutrition. And if you found this video helpful, please give it a subscribe, click the subscribe, and tap the notification bell. Have a great day, Michele. Be well, everyone, and I'll see you in the next video.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.